All right, welcome back to another video. In the last video, we spent some time getting themes working. We moved our form to the right side of our table and got the formatting all nice on that. So now if you click Create School, it opens up the form beside the table because this is a really small form. You can put in new schools. You can throw a category and a district on there, and you click Create, and it adds it to the table. Now we're going to focus on just making some of those interactions a little bit better. You probably saw a little bit of jumpiness there. Our errors on the form aren't that nice. And if there's issues on the back end, we have no way of displaying those errors. So lots of error handling and just like transferring that data into the table. And then if we have time, we'll also get into editing in the school, because right now you can't edit any of the records here. So that's the plan over the next video or two. So without further ado, one thing I noticed last video was when you click create, these fields that are default from int d aren't that nice. Like district ID is the name of the field, I believe. So I think what I'm probably going to do is, rather than changing the name of the field, because that's what we use for the data we send to the backend, let's add our own custom message to all of these, which is something like that. We already do it for the name. So move these onto new rows, or new lines. And please select a category. Hopefully you've got a nice tasty beverage while you're coding. I've got some tea here, perfect for just a relaxing drink for coding. Select a district, please. Perfect. So now our message is customized when we click create. We could remove the please if we wanted to be a bit more direct, since you're going to be seeing please a lot, but I'll leave it for now. The other thing I noticed is once you select the two dropdowns, the width of the form gets reset. That feels awkward. I'm actually going to set the width of this form to a static value. Right now it's 320. Let's just set it as 320. I'm saying max width right now, but let's do that. So now if we select both of these, nothing happens. Perfect. That's two things off my list already. The next thing I'd like to do is, it's a little bit of weird oddness here on the right side. Let's redo that, close that. The next thing I'd like to do is, sometimes when you're submitting forms, there's errors that you catch with the form as a whole that you want to display. So maybe there's no elementary schools in the Caribou. So when you click submit, you want to say, hey, you can't do that. You're not allowed elementary schools in the Caribou. Those errors would either be caught on the front end if it's easy to catch, or on the server side if it's a lot more complex. At least that's the way I've seen it. We're going to assume this is going to be caught on the front end, and we'll get into some backend ones later. So just as an example, we have submit school here, so on finish is when, this is after the form tries to submit. So here's where we might do more validation. So maybe I'm gonna put it in a method, just as a standard to have a method for like additional. Let's call it additional. Well, it's an action, so let's call it actually, no, let's not put it in a method for now. That's like a pre-optimization. Doesn't matter. We're gonna say if these values, it's of type school, right? So we can say values dot category is equal to, which one's category? We have category and district. Category is equal to I have these constants here. How would we say, actually this poses an interesting issue. If we go to our store, These are all select options. Right now we have no way of saying like if category equals middle school, because middle school, if we go back to the back end, it's only on the back end. Like we don't know the value on the front end. And I think if I take high school category here, we're sending these to like what I'd like to be able to do is school categories dot middle school. But to do that, we need to, I did not anticipate this when we jumped into this, but that's how coding goes. To do that, we'd need, how often do we school categories in the front end right now? I might refactor that in a few places. It's not horrible. What we could do is we could turn we could take all these and convert constants to drop down. We could call this options. So on the front end, we can always say school, get the school categories options, but then here as well, we could, like for each key in this, or yeah, like we almost want to do this. We almost want to have a method here. Oh, you see, we already have a method here. That's to create the options list, but so rather than convert constants to drop-down format, we almost want to convert constants into like a usable format for the front end. One step is the creating the drop-down option, but another is having the constants available. Like we could almost response equals this. It's not really a response. We'll change that. But that creates the option list. So response could look. Maybe for each item in the constants, we also want to do response and have a key, and the key is the display value. I'm gonna Google this. I wonder if there's better options. Pass choices to front end. Yeah, so hard coding, this breaks the dry principle. Yes, it does. Using an API to send choices, that's what we're thinking about doing. Here's our CRUD endpoints device. So a device model, is that, okay, this is the device model. Size, oh, they create a class for their choices. Is that new? Is that new? If we look at Django choices, we'll get the most current documentation. So we're looking at 4.1 right now. If we look at choices, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is what they encourage you to do it right now. But okay, they have a size class. Oh, you're making an options request. Builds options request for all endpoints out of the box and includes actions. Wait, does it really do that? So this is with a post request. No way. I think they're missing something. I don't think the choices are automatically included. Like if we call create on this, yeah, like the response doesn't include anything. Oh, you know what they're doing? Their serializer is saying include all fields, which is bad practice. You don't want to include all fields. You should be explicit with what fields you're returning to the front end. So that's not quite what we want, but it's, let's see, grep include choices in serializer. Because that isn't a bad approach, but we want to be explicit about how we do it. Okay, that's just how to display it in a nice way. It's a choice field. You know what we need is, where do we have those choices? What models do we have choices on? Choices equal, okay, we only have it on school. If I request the schools, we're running into that error again. We've had this before. That's annoying. So we'll have to look into that. Oh, have I broken something? No. Okay, whatever. We're just gonna look at this response. We'll fix that in a second. So the results for each result, we have name, category. Category is just, I didn't know they had a choice field. That's kind of interesting. Let's play with that for a second. Let's look at our options a little bit. So let's just close all this. Oh yeah, the response was modified. That's why it was erroring out. So put this back to normal. Let's go back to our front end. We can just comment out that. And then if we go to our school serializer, I want to make categories a choice field, or category, sorry, where the choices equals the school dot category. There we go. See what that looks like. Refresh, that should work now, perfect. Let's do a test here on a create. So we're still getting a 201. What happens if I try and then create school when I'm submit school? the values here. I want to do a values dot category. I'm just going to modify this equals like something ridiculous. I don't even know if that will run the way I want it to, but all right, we got a 400. It's not a valid choice. That's what I wanted to see. If I remove this, do I still get that? I think I do. Yeah. All right, so that does nothing for me. Hopefully you're understanding what I'm trying to do here, though. Essentially, we want to be able to say, just to reiterate, the whole purpose of this is we want to be able to say, refer to a category and say if it is a specific category, but we don't have access to that middle school value, which equals like mid on the back end. So we're trying to find a way to get all of those. Graph choice constants to front end. Here we are. Yeah, this is pretty much what I was about to do. Okay, let's just do that. So if we go back here, let's see if we can undo, like redo some of the stuff. Perfect. So this is going to be like options and constants. And then for each item in a choice, there's going to be the key is going to be the label, and the value is going to be the actual value. And then we can say options and constants. The options parameter is going to actually be this option list. And we can return this. And then for school categories, convert constants to dropdown. It's more like get or format constants and options. So for high school categories, we're now going to be returning a list of options, but we're also going to have for every option, there's going to be a key which refers to the value. So let's see if that even runs. Let's do a little refresh. We're going to run into that error that we've seen. Yep, that's the one. If we go to our constants, you can now see high school categories has the 3 keys, which are the options, and then options, which is like just a formatted dropdown, which we could do on the front end, but it's kind of nice just having that all available. Okay, so now whenever we use high school categories on the front end, high school school categories, not high school categories. The type has changed, right? So if we go to here, school categories is not actually types anymore. What it is, if we go to our types, is export interface, Django choices. There is going to be an options parameter, which is going to be a list of select options. That's kind of like what we have right now. But there's also going to be like any number of keys. TypeScript interface with variable keys, yeah. Here we go. So there's going to be a bunch of keys with strings as values, right? Property options of type. Property options of type select option. Where's that store again? So it's fine as soon as I how many of these do you need to put? Can you All right, I'm just gonna leave that for now. I might get back to it. Let's try and get this working. So every place we use school categories or whatever we're doing that specifically, I think what we actually want is options for the most part. So we want school categories to options. Did I define the type up here? Type store, constant state. Oh, we need to use the Django choices. School category system with Django choice type. And then options does not exist on Django. Pretty sure it does. I don't think I've defined that type right. That's probably the issue. TypeScript interface with unknown keys. (2022). I wonder if, can you not use? Oh, wait, I'm silly. School categories is Django choices. By default, this is going to be an object where the options are nothing. Okay, there we go. So now it has, yeah, the type was just wrong. So it was saying school categories was a list of Django choices, but school categories is a Django choice. Let's rename Django choice to singular because it's weird to read as plural. So school categories is a Django choice, and a Django choice has options and then like a bunch of keys. Perfect. So now, yeah, we can do school categories dot options. Let's see where else we do school categories dot. Perfect. Okay, so now if we refresh, let's see if we're getting any errors in the terminal. It doesn't like wherever we're doing our drop down. Here and here. There we are. So this has to be options. Okay, that error's gone away. Now if I refresh, that error should go away. Perfect. Drop down still works. Test, caribou, create. We get a 400 right now. That's because we never removed that hard-coded value that I have up here. So just remove that. But now what we can do is we can say if school categories dot middle category equals middle school. We've essentially said like on the school categories type, it can have any type. So it's never going to complain about what we do here. We could do like nothing, which is fine. It's a bit weird for sure. But if the category equals middle school, console log disaster and return. Okay. So now if we go back here and we refresh and we create a school and we set the category to middle school, we clear our console and we click create, we didn't get disaster. Let's console log what values category was and also if this even exists. Okay, so now if we go here, middle school, click create. So mid is defined and undefined is what that was. Let's see what school categories is and try that again. So school categories is an object. We mislabeled our variable. So that's the issue with this format. I might do a bit more research off stream to see if we can improve this because I mistyped middle school, right? So that's just gonna fail and it wouldn't, you'd never know, which is just like ripe for errors. Now if we go here, click this, clear this, we should get disaster. So nothing happened. That's when we'd actually display an error. So we're gonna continue with that error logic. But we'll probably come back to how we're using this constant. So let's go look at D. Sometimes you just need to move forward and then come back to things, or at least tell yourself you'll come back to things. If we go to our forms, do they have any errors of like, I mean examples of error, like form errors rather than the field errors? What if I just look for error? 42. Oh, those are all field errors. So this is another way you can customize errors. We're not going to do this because we're not going to use the name of the field. Colon dependencies, extra prop messages. In order to help, you should. I don't know if we saw an example of that. I'm kind of curious. Let's. I'm just going to throw that on the form. We want to see what's available to us. So extra is a component, so it can just return span a helpful message. It was a component, wasn't it? It's a React node. It's not assignable to whatever. Wait. Are we still looking at form? Oh, we're looking at form item. Okay, so we can't do that. I'll remove it in a second. Column disabled fields, form initial values, layout, preserve, scroll to first error. Okay, well that's actually still kind of cool, right? So you can actually put these on form items. I'm just gonna see what this looks like because I'm curious. Not assignable to React node. What is type React node? So I can just do a string. Okay. We'll look at that in a second, see if we like it. Get value from event, get value from props, has feedback. Kind of curious what has feedback is as well. So we're just gonna set that to true. Sometimes it's easier just to look at it rather than read instructions. All right. Doesn't look like they have what I was looking for, which is like, oh, that's the helpful message. Oh, and that's the icon probably, right? What was it called? Has feedback. And we don't need extra. Okay. We're going to write a custom error for the bottom of our form. In typography, they likely have some error message examples. There it is. Danger. So when we submit, if we run into disaster when the middle school category is selected, which is a ridiculous error, but let's ignore it for now. What we might do, error set error, error message set error message equals use state string. We can set the error message, which is going to be disaster. And at the bottom of our form, this is probably going to look quite silly. I'm just going to put it here for now. We're going to change this. Now we can do error message error message of type string is not React node. I think this actually is going to be of type React node. Wait, why isn't I string value conditional? So if error message is not equal to an empty string, let's look at the recommended approach for this. It's not the same example, but is it the curly braces, the double curly braces? I'm so used to doing, yeah, that's what it was. So used to doing two of them. Okay. So now if we submit that form, one thing is if there's no error message, if error message is an empty string, and we might actually make error message like a list of strings that you could have, you could collect the errors that the user could fix all of them. We'll probably do that. But if we go here, click middle school, do all this. Now we click create. That didn't work. This is an asynchronous method, so form has errors equals false. But if you go in here, form has errors is actually true. It's probably a better way to do it. And then we can just say if the form doesn't have errors, then you can submit. Go back here, try for another time to use middle school, and we get disaster. So this is a pretty small form, which means we don't have a ton of real estate for error messages. It's going to take a sip of tea here. I'd like to maybe put it in line with the button. I think that's what we'll do for now. So I'm just gonna, what happens if I just put it in here? What you can also do when you're testing these things, you can just say true, or I guess a simpler way would just be to set the error message, error, and then it will just always be showing. And then in our library, we have some containers. I could have sworn I created a component for this. Form wrappers. Let's create a form footer. Just give me a styled div. It's gonna be a display. We could actually probably do styled like footer. Might come back to that, but we want to start using components that aren't divs. That's something I'd like to work on more. Need to get more familiar with what options I have to make it accessible to the user. But justify content, space between, so that's going to separate the justify content, space between, but we're also going to have like a minimum gap of maybe 12 pixels, align item center, and let's see what that looks like. But yeah, so you just going back, it can be easy to use divs for everything, and I've done it for a lot of my career, but you generally, and it depends like what you're working on, but you generally want to try and use more native HTML elements. And there's like tens or hundreds. Yeah, create school, forms, form wrappers. We have the form header. We also now have a form footer. if we put the form footer around our error message and our form item, like that, that should look quite nice. Maybe. Nice might not be the right statement, but let's add some margin top on this. So maybe by default, form footers are 24 pixels below the form. That seems nice. Let's try using a longer error to see what happens. Really long error message spelled wrong. Okay, that's not horrible. You'd want to keep in mind that you want to keep those error messages short, but that's not too bad. The line height's a little bit weird. It feels really tall to me, but we can always adjust that later. But that feels pretty good. So now what we've done today is we fixed our field messages. We started working on showing more complex errors on forms in the front end, and then we ran into issues with constants. So now we've set up our constants a little bit differently so that we have the options available on the front end. One thing you could do, just thinking about these types here, is if we go to our types, what you could do is you could say interface high school categories, and it could extend, I think, Django choice. And then what you could do is you could say middle school is an option and return just a string. And then if you use that for high school categories, which is all the way back at the store, but then you might be, let's try it. Let's go to the store. School categories is actually that, which is imported from here. It's saying now it's a required type though, and that's a bit weird. Maybe we can just make this optional. But now what we could do is we could remove that. So now you can't have any key you want. And if we go back to, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. That set as high school categories. Perfect. If we go back to our create school form and we change this and we missed a letter, it would say, hey, middle school does not exist on this. Did you mean middle school? And then you could be like, yeah, that's actually the constants I meant. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to make sure that you can define your constants. You'll avoid errors because you'll be able to say middle school is an option and it's all in one place. It's all going to be in this types folder file. So you can keep track to make sure that you aren't mistyping things, which is great. This is actually probably what we want to do. So another option is elementary. And I think another one of the options is high school. And you can mistype them here, but at least when you fix them, it will fix it everywhere because you might be using high school categories in a lot of places. So now what you could also do is you could say, if it's high school, throw an error, which is great. So let's remove that empty error message. It's currently set to high school. So if we go back to our front end, high school is missing in type, but required. Did I not make it optional? You want to make it optional, which is weird, right? That's also weird. High school categories, that is sort of a required field on that type. But I don't want to have to default it. So it's a bit weird because if we didn't make that required, or if we did make that required, I'd have to put it a default for all of state, which is just, I don't know, doesn't feel good. I suppose we could. I'll think about it. Yeah, let's go back to our front end. Now it's set to high school, so if I select high school and do that, apparently I spelled it wrong, so it doesn't even matter. Let's check it. Let's take a look. So if we go to network, constants, did I spell that right? Copy value. If we go to our type, I did spell it wrong. So now I fixed the type here, which means if we go back to our create school form, it's actually going to be complaining, hey, high school doesn't exist. And it would complain everywhere where we're doing that, which might not be in that other places, but good practice. So now if we go here, high school, it should arrow. Perfect, disaster. Okay, I think I'm going to call this video here. 46 minutes, pretty long. In the next video, we will maybe look at catching errors on the API. We might clean some of this up, and then we'll look at errors, capturing errors on the API side. So maybe when you create schools, you need to say like, or yeah, when you're creating schools, you need to say like, hey, is that district allowing schools based off some other table, which is more complex than what we have here. And we need to let the user know about that. So that's next time. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.